All right, everybody. Welcome to Unfiltered Race Fans Only Podcast, episode 34. We got two races to talk about today. We just finished with Gateway, and then we're gonna go back and talk about Darlington and the lawsuit news that came out last week. And as Blake said, make Prime primary. The broadcast ain't been the same since, so we'll keep hoping that it gets better. But we'll start with what we saw this weekend. So you and I talked between now and our last get together. I was really worried for the HMS folks, and several others going into this race. And the first thing that jumped out to me is that Gateway, like the other short tracks, is where Penske's been strong, and they were strong, but HMS has, recently struggled, and they actually performed very well today, overall, other than Bowman. But, Larson, Chase, and Byron all had strong runs at different points, which gives me some hope that if they make it to the final four, that they're not just there to clog the space, that they actually have a chance at Phoenix. What do you think?
Well, like you, I was very worried about this weekend until I heard on Friday that Larson had tested here a month ago or so.
Yeah.
When I learned that, I was like, okay, maybe we got something here. And then he was fast in practice, second fastest in qualifying, and got out to a very early, huge lead. And then chaos ensued. I'd still believe um, had the issue with Wallace's gear changing on the restart not happened, and maybe if Larson started on the inside like he should have, since he had the choice to start either inside front row or behind Bubba. If he starts beside Bubba, he probably wins this race through and through. So
Yeah. Yeah.
ifs and
It
buts,
was,
but he definitely had probably a top three car for sure. Uh, the 11 was very strong. The 19 was strong. He was strong, and 12 was good as well. But definitely showed up with speed. The had speed. 24 had decent speed. So they definitely found something, which is like you said, it's great to see for if they all any of them make it to the final four. Um, but definitely better showing than what we anticipated going in.
yeah. This was the same tire we ran at Iowa for this weekend. I thought it raced really well. You could see that tire wear mattered.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Larson had 20 laps fresher tires, and he drove up through the field there after that first initial caution when Chase got loose and took out Barry. This time,
Yep.
Barry got taken out, no fault of his own, which is too bad for him. He's pretty much out of it now, barring
And there's
a
if he wins
Christmas
Bristol,
miracle
I'll
at
be shocked.
Bristol,
Yeah.
which could happen. I mean, he's a short track ace. He could win Bristol, but the
But
probability,
there's I think, I mean, if I'm hearing right, there's a new tire at Bristol this coming race. So, uh, I mean, it could show a upset, but you know,
I'm not, I'm not expecting it, but it's possible.
yeah.
So,
So that was upsetting to see because he was running in the top 10, I believe, when that happened. He had had a good first little bit there, and
yeah,
until Kyle Busch spun out, which
yeah.
Kyle's, I'm sure, just ready to retire at this point.
Yeah, I think he's running out of patience for this.
Yeah.
I don't doubt Kyle's ability, but if they're not going to fix this car to where he can drive it the way he likes to drive, um, yeah. So obviously, Barry got taken out in a big hit. Chase managed to come back through. SVG battled for a stage win in the first stage impressively, which gave me some hope towards my prediction that he's going to advance through. He's 15 out, but he's not out. So he's still got there's still a chance, but we're going to Bristol where it's really hard to score points. So I'm not saying no yet, but uh and my other predictor, Bell, is making me look like an idiot. So which I'm not upset that that happened. I'm just shocked because, they haven't been able to get out of their own damn way until now. And now all of a sudden it's
And
like,
your
oh,
old prediction about Chase Elliott is not looking good either.
yeah, we pretty much blew our final four, our first four outs.
Yeah.
Um, so
Um, I think we've got two right at the moment. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
like
sure.
I think Bowman and
But,
Barry are solidly out at this
I
point.
mean,
They're way, way back.
Hendrick could still fall out. 22 could still fall out, but they had good races
Yeah,
today.
because I mean,
So
all you got to do is go and get wrecked in the first stage. Anything can happen. All Larson's
no,
got to do is start the race because
no,
he's
he's got to be
plus
more than that.
60.
Is he plus 60?
He's plus 60. He needs 1 point because the
Oh,
most you
that
can score
stupid
is
HBO
61.
thing was screwed up then. As you run during a race, it shows what position you're in.
Well, I'm looking at
And
his standings right now, and so here's how they stand after race two. All right, Denny and Briscoe are obviously locked into the next round. Larson is plus 60, Bubba's plus 50. So Larson needs only 1 point to lock in because the most you can score in a race is 61.
well, you have to win to do that. So
Yeah,
that's
so he would have to win. Somebody would he would have to
finish last.
he's pretty finished last
Yeah.
and
Okay.
have a new winner, and he'd still he's still locked in from what I see.
See,
Bubba at
it
50.
showed only plus what was it plus 40 something when
Yep.
the race ended on HBO. It showed top left of the screen, so that's why I was thinking.
And if Bubba finishes the first stage with, Bubba gets 10 points in the first stage and just finishes the second stage, he's pretty much locked in because he's plus 50.
Yeah.
Blaney's 8 back from that at 42, Byron at 39, Reddick at 37, Bell at 32. I feel like everybody down to Bell is safe. The people that I think are still not safe based on how you get, 2 stages and you're back in it. Um, Chase is at plus 28. That's good, but not safe. Joey plus 21. Again, good, but not safe because if you go out in the first one and your competitors score stage points in the first 2 stages, you're only a handful of positions from being
And
out. So,
if I remember right, he was not that good in the spring.
no, not like he used to be. So Joey's
Austin's only
got a
7
solid
now.
cushion over the bottom four, but that's nothing. He can't go in there and just ride. He's got to go in there and gain points in the first 2 stages. Ross is plus 19 and Cindric is plus 11. So I
Austin
feel like, yep.
Dillon is the only one that's really got a chance of possibly bouncing in, right?
Austin's back
Point
11
wise.
and SVG's back 15. So that's why I was saying I don't think SVG's out of it yet. Now, if he scores 0 stage points in the first and second stage, like their goal should be go in there, score stage points. Whatever the competition does, you do the opposite, get those stage points. If they can get some stage points and see where everything stacks up, at least you give yourself a chance.
Yeah.
Uh, Bowman's
I
back
tried to
35
tell
and Barry's back
26.
45. Go ahead.
I tried to tell you all 26 playoff points was not enough.
No, no, well, I think it wasn't that bad, but it's the stubbing your toe in the first race puts you in a hell of a hole. So for him to only drop down to being 15 below, I think is actually pretty good. I mean, again, they've got a shot, they got a chance. I think he'd be better off if he was 15 above and he was fighting with something in the bank, but maybe he'll run better knowing that, we did see him move. Uh, who did he move up out of the groove? Was it wasn't Logano? It was
It was Allmendinger, I think.
no, he came up on him and they were struggling and Cindric, he just moved Cindric out of the way like he was nothing.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he was aggressive. So because he was trying to get those stage points. So that was good. Um, that's what he's got to do. And he had a good run in that first stage. They just got off strategy and never really kept themselves back in it, and that's too bad. Uh, but they are still within striking distance. So, like I said, I think from ninth on back isn't safe, but really, Bell at plus 32, really, he's not that safe either, honestly.
Yeah, I remember a
Again, two
time when
stage
Larson was
wins,
plus
and you
32
can
going
wait.
into a cutoff race and blew an engine and didn't
Yeah.
make it.
So,
Kansas what was it 17.
really, I'd say I'm changing my decision. I'm going to move up to the top seven. If you're not in the top seven, you're in trouble. And really, there's
Yeah,
5 spots there. So if you're not third to seventh, you're going to have to go in there and be aggressive. You're not going to have a chance to lay back and see what happens.
yeah.
So
As far as today's race, I feel like it was way better than I anticipated. There was a lot more passing than I anticipated. The last few years, once you strung out, you're where you were. And this race, it seemed like your car mattered, your tires mattered a little bit. So, hell, Christopher Bell restarted 19th and got up to third on right sides only. So, and until Larson spun out Ryan, and Ryan or Larson was on four and was up to sixth when that happened. So uh, it showed that, I mean, it was only 18 laps, but it showed that fresh tires mattered for once at that
yeah,
track when the
yeah, I
last few
was
years.
for short track racing. I was very happy with the race overall. I know people say it was boring because of who led and this and that, but there was the capability of comers and goers. Tires did matter, and they were all over the track. You had a wide groove in those narrow turns. It
Yeah, I
wasn't just
wish that
2 lane track. It was up to three and a half lanes wide, which is what you wanted a short track.
if they ever need, whenever they need to repave that track, they should integrate it. Keep the bottom where it's at.
Give it a little progressive banking. Yeah.
Yep, do the middle just a degree higher than the high line, a degree higher than that, and I think that racetrack would be popping. But right now, I mean, it's doing that because it's aged, but it's still when you have to downshift to third gear
Mhm.
when you have 5 gears in turn one, I think that's kind of takes away from the racing a little bit. But like I said, it was a better race than I anticipated
And I'd like to see what would happen if you didn't have all those gears. If you just had
up to
what we're
four.
used to having. Yeah, if you had 1 to 4, would we get better racing through the turns than we got today? I don't know. But
I didn't get to watch the Xfinity race, so that would probably be the answer for that.
so um let's see what else. Larson took out Blaney. Larson said he made a mistake. Blaney recovered, came back, but didn't understand why. Um, Watching the replay, to me, it looked like Blaney must have gotten loose. Like his car didn't look like it got loose, but he had to have gotten loose because Larson came in there with such a head. He was rolling the corner so much better. He just ran up on Blaney, I think, faster than he was
Did you
expecting him to be there.
did
Yeah.
you see the interview?
From Larson, yeah, he just said he made a mistake.
Yeah,
Um,
so
but
I
I mean,
mean,
he was rolling the corner so much faster. Like, I don't really see how you can say that was. Yes, you're Larson ran the backup, so it's Larson's fault. But to me, I feel like he missed. Well, I guess it is a mistake either way, but he misjudged the timing. But Blaney had been so fast earlier, I think he just wasn't expecting him to still be there, and he was accelerating. And Blaney just seemed like he couldn't, and that's how they got together. But Blaney always cries. Anytime somebody touches him, he always cries, and you know,
yep,
oh, you did me wrong. Uh,
arrow blocking motherfucker.
mhm. So
I'll never forget that.
yeah, so that happened. Briscoe looking like he's going to win the first two was impressive. When he doored Larson, when Larson was trying to pass him, I was like, well, that's not very smart. You have a guarantee to the next round. These guys don't have as much to lose. They could wall your ass. And I
Yeah,
would. I'd be like, okay, you want to race that way? Game on.
I mean, I
So,
get why he did it. It's for a point for the next round.
yeah, I mean, Chase is at a major disadvantage points wise compared to his competition going into this race. When the round resets next round, Larson's going to be in, Bell's probably going to be in, Denny's most certainly going to be in, and these guys are all sitting on way more playoff points than Briscoe is. So because they've got 3 and 4 and 5 wins now
And unless
and
Larson
stage
wins
wins.
next week, I'm pretty sure Denny will be the point leader starting around at eight, around at 12.
Yep. Well, and so I'm glad that the HMS guys had a better day today because next week was going to be my litmus test for me after you and I went to that race last year to see, all right, where are they at? Because if they smoked everybody last year, if they don't show up and kick butt this year or be in the conversation, they're in big trouble. So I think this was a good thing for Hendrick all around. Um, I feel bad for the Wood brothers because they started off the season with so much speed and everything. But I mean, this kind of luck that Barry's having, the first two races, isn't too dissimilar from the luck, when Kyle Busch would go in with multiple wins and all kinds of speed, and all of a sudden everything would just come apart, or Larson with the blown engine under the Ganassi time, and where just shit happens. It's like you
Yep.
you burnt through all your good early on, and just can't seem to get things to go the way you want them to. I don't think we had any major. Yeah, we didn't have any wheels come off, but we definitely had a loose wheel with Briscoe that they couldn't get seated up right, so that
Well,
come back to.
the
Yeah,
45 had to stop in whose crew was that? They stopped somewhere to get their tire. I think it was maybe Denny's stall, and then I think the 48 had an issue where they couldn't get the tire on right. They had to jack the car back up because the tire wasn't on.
yeah. Now one I was,
One lug and they can't get it on there. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Let's see what else. I don't think I really have too. The other thing I'll say is poor Ty Dillon, man. Went
Yeah,
from the point of conversation midsummer with the brackets and everything to, man, what a bad day he had. Just couldn't catch a break. I
he
can't.
got DraftKings a shit ton of
Yeah.
promotional.
He did give him a
Um,
lot of good promotion. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He got a lot
he
of
had him
sponsored
on TV
activation,
right there.
just not for the right reasons. And Allmendinger ran well again over there, so continues to show that their short track program and their colleagues moving in the right direction. Still, that overall bringing over of Ty Norris, I think, is smart. Um, so yeah. Uh, what else you want to talk about with the Cup race
Um,
for this one?
it. I mean, I with that Ty Dillon wreck, I mean, I know it was a part issue. I was so upset to see it as a Larson fan because I honestly think Larson wins the race if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, the way the strategy was playing out, there were some guys up front that I thought made some good plays, some good gambles. I'm surprised some more people didn't take them too, with the way some of these cautions happened later toward the end of the race. I thought Keselowski's strategy overall wasn't a bad option. When he got in the tire, but when they didn't pit, I thought that was a mistake at the end when they had that
Yeah,
opportunity to come get fresh tires, and we saw how good fresh tires were. It's not like you're trying to win a stage and move forward in the playoffs. You're out of them, so
they're
really
just
you should be
they're
swinging for
grasping at
everything.
straws. They're grasping at straws right now, and
Yeah.
they're trying shit, and that's cool and everything. But when the field has 40 lap older or newer tires than you, I think it's time to change your mindset a little bit. Um, but yeah, I think Larson's crew chief Cliff had just said, um, you know, we're in a, we're like right on the line or whatever, making it, and he asked about Byron, and Byron was not as good as he was. He hadn't been saving fuel. So Byron wasn't going to make it. The six obviously wasn't going to make it.
Yep.
And then that caution comes out, and you're like, I just threw my hands up, like, man, what? I just wanted to see if he'd make it. I just wanted to see if, for once he could win a fuel mileage race because to my knowledge, he never has. So, but as far as Cup race goes, it was a better race than I anticipated, and uh, just I I see that they're in the playoffs again next year, and I just kind of wonder why. Why is Gateway in the playoffs? But
I don't know. It wasn't. It was. For short track racing, I feel like it was a good overall race. To now, is it? I'm definitely with you. I think or what you're probably thinking is I think our best 10 tracks should be in the playoffs. It should be the best 10 we can put together. And is this the best of the 10? No. Is it inside the top 15 of tracks? I would say probably based on today's racing. And I think it does look out that benefits today from the uh, um, softer tire that they brought this weekend. I think if we didn't have that tire, the racing probably isn't as good. Then you definitely question, like, what are y'all doing bringing this back next year? in the same spot within the playoffs. But um, so that's all I've really thought and want to talk about for the Cup race this weekend. The Xfinity race, moving on. Connor Zilic, 88 team picks up a 10th win. Zilic is ninth on the season. An unbelievable amount of state of points to start the playoffs, just like Heim. He's plus 60 something. Heim's in that same neighborhood. Like it's unreal. Now, now we're gonna get a chance, both of them. If either one of those two doesn't make it to the final four, that'll be the best thing that ever happened for this format, to show just how broken this system is. That somebody can come in and win 50% of the races in the regular season and not be a championship contender at the final race. That's going to show a major flaw in either one of those. Um, and so while I'm not rooting against them. If something bad happens, I will end up celebrating that, because I think it will further push NASCAR to correct the playoff system as it is today. I was talking to my dad about this for the race, while we were talking about the racing today and everything. And, while I'm against the current drafting tracks because of the way this car drafts, we talked about it before with what our optimum setup would be if we absolutely had to have playoffs still. I think we talked about it before, but I would do a one card wild card. You and I had talked about that. I think it's either break hard or Epstein. Not Epstein. Estep. Epstein. Sorry, Eric Estep. No, you don't watch my stuff, but if somebody tells you I called you Epstein. It's my bad. My bad. Eric Epstein on Epstein Island. But anyway, on NASCAR Island. So
Oh, we're so over.
Eric Estep had proposed, I want to say this, where it was the first race is a wild card race, and then three, three, and three. And I think that would work really well with the way it is right now. I'd even be okay with the first wild card race being at Daytona, Atlanta, or Talladega, because everybody's going to race their ass off, because you're going to drop four of you immediately.
Yeah.
And then from there, I think I would drop, instead of dropping four each time, I'd only drop two in the subsequent 2 3 round races, so that you have 8 people racing in the final three.
Well,
Or
well,
drop 3 and 3, you still
what
drop half the field, but you end up with 6 people
what
racing.
about this? What
Go ahead.
about the 11 race chase? Okay. 11 races instead of 10. There's a reason I'm doing this.
Yep.
This way you would not have to change next year's schedule.
Yep.
You still have Darlington on Southern 500 week, or on
Yep.
you know Southern 500 weekend. You know what I'm trying to say, on Labor Day weekend, because I almost had Memorial weekend
Yep.
in my head,
Yep.
like everybody does. But you can start the playoffs at Daytona,
Okay.
and like I say, I think the top 8 should be locked. This should only affect the bottom 8.
Okay.
So, because if you have one of your top 8 have a wreck at Daytona and get out after one race, being, one of the best cars all year, that's bad.
Well,
That'd
and
be
we saw that
excellent.
with the bracket, where people weren't
Yeah.
as invested in the bracket once all your top contenders were taken out basically in the first 2 races.
Yeah.
So,
So, but anyway, do an 11 race. Do the first race at Daytona,
mhm.
because it's technically the last race of the season right now. But it'd be the first playoff race,
Yep.
and then you would knock out, 4 drivers, and then you would do uh, a 2, 3, and then 4 race. I don't think I did that right. You get what I'm trying to do. Four
Yep.
race final, a 4 race final to do. It's 3, 3, and 4 is what it would be. So do a 3 race, and 4 race final. That way, you can decide the champion by 4 races instead of one.
Yeah, that would work. I think that would work. Um, I'm interested to see. We're getting closer to the end of we're only 8 races from being done, and I think you've got to decide what you're going to do. And you can decide this regardless of what's going on with the lawsuit, because the charters have no impact on the playoff format. That's more TV contracts and everything like that. Um, So let's see here.
So
Go ahead.
with the Xfinity
Yep.
race, that was the end of their regular season, and I mentioned it last night. Everybody is what all you 10 people that watch us.
Yep. All
Who
10,
all
two of you.
who all had Harrison Burton making the playoffs in his first year in the 25 car?
I
You too?
honestly didn't expect him to do anything in that car based on how bad it was for, I don't worry about what Haley Deegan did in it. I look more at they had Joey Logano get in it and he couldn't do anything with it.
Joey Logano, Josh Berry.
Yeah. The
Um,
fact that you had some bigger names get in it and
yeah,
they also couldn't do much with it, definitely got to give uh Harrison his due. That was good.
I'm very happy for him, and I hope he does something with it. Definitely should bring some sponsor involvement. Maybe teams to be looking at him more than what they were already. I don't know if it's a 1 year deal or not or whatever, but maybe it puts him into a different spot next year for that has a better team behind him.
The only other thing I'll say about the Xfinity series, looking back 1 week ago and everybody cutting those corners and everything at that track, my initial question was, why in the fuck are we even in Portland to begin with? All your other series are set in their playoffs and they're in Darlington. Why are you not there? From a If your goal is to have playoffs for all of your series, and like you should have all three series start at the same time, and they should all three start at the same point. So that just it feels like a major misstep by them from yesterday or from last week. And it just further example of like we don't need to be road racing first off heavily like we are, and yet we're going to go do a lot of road racing and street racing next year, even the truck series. But it just further shows like the lower tiers are not ready for this. And I would say they would get better with more time, but then you look at the argument that NASCAR is so bad at officiating track limits, like you're just wasting your time. We look ridiculous. Like we went out there, the course is designed a certain way, and we don't even penalize people for not obeying it. So we just look ridiculous. I said to
You,
I don't remember who I said it to, but I was like, this is why we can't have nice things. It's like this right here. It's like this is you can't consider yourself a serious road racing motorsport if this is how we're going to run things.
you
And
know
there's
it's
no other
bad when
way.
our teams finding out the fastest way through the Joker zone to find out that you can actually run it faster than the actual course.
Yep, that if you just blow the turn, the chicane
If
altogether.
you intentionally blow it, you know you're going to blow it. So you're like, I'm gonna net gain this anyway. So well,
Yep,
that's what Connor Zillage did. He said I accidentally did it one time, and the next time I did it on purpose because it was faster,
it was
and it's
faster, and we didn't get penalized.
and it's legal to go that way. So
It's similar to the Ross Chastain with the ride in the wall and the Indianapolis. Like
yeah,
they figured out a way to game the track design, and or to game the rules and benefit from it. And NASCAR didn't do anything about it. And
yeah,
you know, it looked awful in my opinion. But yeah, just ridiculous. But
yeah.
so let's see.
And so are we at Darlington Trucks now?
Yeah, so let's go to Darlington Trucks.
It
Uh,
was Heim time.
yep, it was Heim time. No change there. He starts off the playoffs, Heim time, and has a mountain of points. Like so, who's
Already guaranteed in round of eight, which he essentially started the playoffs guaranteed in round of eight.
but he's definitely guaranteed now, and he's damn near guaranteed to you know the round of four.
Yeah. He'd
Uh,
have to have a monumental, just
collapse.
terrible
Yeah.
3 races to not make that.
So, uh, one thing about Truck Series that I heard this week that I didn't know last week, we knew with the announcement that Colleague is going to field 5 trucks by Ram next year. But what
Crazy.
was revealed this week that I found, I don't know if you'd heard this, but it was on NASCAR Sirius XM that I find interesting and it's a good thing. They're fully funded trucks by Ram, which means they don't have to go find drivers that have to pay to play. They can go pick the best 5 drivers they can get
Hmm.
That's good for racing. That's good for the truck series. It means you don't have to go get some kid who probably shouldn't be
You're
there yet
telling
with a
me
checkbook
all five trucks are
are paid
fully
for
funded
by
by
Ring.
Ring.
Yep.
That's a lot of money.
That was straight up from the colleague people. So that means colleague
Wow.
can go find themselves the best five drivers they can get to put in those trucks.
Okay. If
And
you're Ram, who are you putting in there? Or Colleague, I mean. Same.
um, well, if I'm looking outside at who's not in there right now, and I go look, like I think I go get Bubba Pollard unless he has an exclusivity agreement with like Chevy. I go get some of the people from the Cars Tour and from the super late models and stocks because you're going to have an opportunity to do some really, really good stuff.
How
Uh,
old is Keelan?
uh, I
How
wish
old
Keelan
is
Harvick was older.
Keelan?
I would put him in there in a heartbeat, but he ain't older yet. Oh no, yet. Sorry, my daughter's calling. I'm just texting her, letting her know, like, hey, I'll call you back.
Yep.
So, like, so those kind of drivers, I would go through the Cars Tour and look at who are your up and coming stars that need a ride that maybe haven't gotten a chance. You know, Tommy Baldwin's son, Luke. I'd put him
Yeah.
in. Uh, you know, a fully funded ride. It's going to be. Have no doubt that it'll be good equipment. Um, because Colleague has done good stuff at the Xfinity level. I know they'll do
Man.
it down there.
And
And
they're
again, you got
starting to
Ty
make
Norris.
headway, and they're starting to make headway in Cup too. I
Yep, and
mean,
they're making
slow
headway
headway,
in
but they're
Cup.
making headway.
It's going to be a lift to start five teams, but the fact that all five are fully funded again, I think you get by being able to go pick five really good drivers and not have to worry about the money. Not that you don't want it, but the fact that that's not the number one negotiating aspect allows you to go get people like what Dale was finally able to do for Josh Berry and for Carson Quaffle and some of these guys.
Yeah.
So, and honestly, if I'm Corey LaJoy, I'm campaigning the hell out of getting over there
I was
because
about
this
to
is
say
the only
that.
way you're saving your career at this point. If you're Corey
Yep.
LaJoy, is
Yep.
go get in that truck. To hell with everything else.
Not only get in it, but get
Unless
in
you
it
can get in the
and
truck that
Corey
you're not
Heim that
getting into.
shit.
Yep. Unless you're getting in Corey Haim's truck, you better be going over
He's
there and
not.
being like, how do I, right. So, and
Who is
honestly, some of these other guys that are back
who is
are,
who is getting in that truck? Is it Brendan
uh,
Queen?
it's Honeycutt.
Honeycutt. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I get him
So,
and
so unless you're in one of those positions, if you're in a 15th to 20th place truck, I'd be calling them too, because this is going to give you a chance to jump to, they're going to be the premier manufacturer team. They're not splitting resources amongst any other teams. They got five trucks, they're all under one banner.
yep.
I mean, and they're essentially kit trucks. So it's not like they're coming up with an engine. It's going to be that Ilmore engine.
Elmore.
Yep. So all the resources for aerodynamics and team building and everything and suspensions and the engineering is all going to be in-house to this one group. So I think that's interesting. Um, I just wanted to bring that up before we moved into the Darlington Cup race, just because, like I said, that when I found out that they were fully funded rides, that's become abnormal at this point, you know, unless you're somebody like Connor Zillich or Larson or somebody like that. Those opportunities don't typically come along where you can get the best guy without money.
The other thing is if Honeycutt doesn't win at least half the races that Heim did this year,
Oh yeah.
it's going to show not only that Heim is ready for Cup, which we all know he is.
Yep.
It shows that it wasn't the team; it was Heim because
Yeah.
his teammates don't do shit.
Well, and you could say the same thing for, I mean, now Junior Motorsports is the team to beat pretty much in Cup or in Xfinity right now. But whoever gets in that 88 next after Zillage, if they don't win 5 to 7 races next year, they're in big trouble because
Yep,
that car has been dominant as a team.
for
And
sure.
I we don't know what the team composition will be once he moves to Cup, but I don't think he's taking his team with him from what I've heard yet. So in terms of crew chief and everything like that. Like it's just the driver.
If I was them, I'd be trying to get that crew chief to come with him.
Yeah, I agree. The chemistry works. I wouldn't want to break them up, and I know Junior would probably be fine with it just based off of his own words, where he says we're a stepping stone program. We're where people come build to to go to the next place, whether that's Travis Mack and those other guys. So we'll just see what happens there. But was that last weekend or was that Daytona where they announced it, where he's going cup racing?
I believe it's Daytona.
So before we get into the cup race, the other thing I wanted to say about that, because now that they've won 10 races, is, I unfortunately for him, for Mr. Zilich, there's going to be this immense amount of pressure next year when he gets in cup to go win a bunch of races, kind of like Ty Gibbs had when he went from his phenomenal year in Xfinity up. And unlike Ty Gibbs, I think people are going to improperly give Zilich criticism and forget that he's going to a B tier team, not an A tier team that sometimes performs as a C tier team. You know, the only the first year was really Trackhouse really good with the next gen car. Ever since they've kind of fallen from an A tier to a mid tier that hovers like right in the middle of being a tier two or a tier three, depending on what's going on. And I think that when you look at what SVG has done, SVG, for example, for them, what Ross has done, they've overachieved in that equipment for them. Where if you put those two guys in, say, Hendrick or Penske cars, you think they're playing with the field now when they go road racing. They're not even going to try. Um,
Yeah.
so I'm trying. For me, I think it's important that I don't think a lot of fans are going to do it, but they need to level set their expectations for next year when he gets in that car. That he'll be lucky if he sniffs a win next year in Cup, because it's a whole different playing field, and he's going to be starting with a B tier team.
I
So,
think the only wins he'll be sniffing are road course wins.
oh, I agree. I think it'll be 2 to 3 years before he sniffs a Cup win at a oval, because these are totally different. And you just have to look at Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs went from beating him hands down, winning his first, same thing, road course race, really prominent, well rounded, won a bunch of races in Xfinity, goes over to arguably one of the three top tier teams. Just look at where they're at right now. Denny's won 5 races this year, Bell's won 3, Briscoe's won 2, and Gibbs is still winless, but 2311's won 1, you know, and then the legacy folks, like, so it's not a Toyota problem. And I wouldn't even argue it's a JGR problem. I think it's a lot harder to come up there and win than people give credit for. And
Yep.
we're, we're entering, this is Gibbs' third year in Cup. So, uh, if it doesn't happen this year, kind of like everybody else, it'll probably happen next year. Took Chase almost 3 years to get his first win. Took Larson a little bit. Some of these, yep. So, uh, the competition level is definitely very high. So, um, but we'll see what he can do next year as a fully funded Red Bull Trackhouse athlete. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
those paint schemes.
I'm still curious if they change it to 87 or if they go to 99. I personally hope it's 87, or 81 or something like that.
I'd like that
Um,
stylized 49 that Red Bull used, that with Casey Kane when in the on the sprint car side. I think that would be a good looking, or that 4 he had with the arrows that when had Red
yeah.
Bull. That was a good looking set of numbers too. But yeah, we'll see what they do with. I'm expecting them to stick with 99 because they have they've started to build a brand around that, but we'll see.
Well, 99 was also their first number of the team, so it
Yeah,
probably,
kind
yeah.
of like Hendrick in the 5. Like,
But
do
they
you?
got rid of the 5 for a few years, so I mean,
Yeah,
just
yep.
like Gibbs got rid of
Gibbs
the
got rid of the
18.
18. Yep.
I'm still shocked that they did that.
So, all right, let's talk about Darlington. So, first and foremost, Chase Briscoe just like spanks the field. Um,
After practicing like crap.
yeah, after practicing like crap, he shows up and he basically pulls a Martin Truex Jr. Coke 600, just decimation of the field. They
Yep.
executed perfectly. Um, Managed the tires great all day through all those short runs. Tyler Reddick made him work for it the last run. Uh, had to earn it. I think if we are in the old car, I think Tyler Reddick beats him first off,
Oh yeah, for sure.
because Tyler, the way the cars work, that stalled air doesn't stop him, and Reddick was equally as good up there riding the wall, but just too much, not enough tire left to make up the difference. But um, the real, and you and I talked about the real shock to me, and as a lot of people alluded to this week after last week, was HMS was nowhere to be found, really, which is shocking when not even 9 months ago in the spring, Byron dominated it before he gave it away. And he's won there in the past, and Larson's won there in the past. Chase has run well there several times. Like, I was just surprised that Hendrick was so far off at their mile and a half program to start the playoffs. That's not like them to come out of the gate and lay an egg. So again,
Well,
like I said, it's good for them that they rebounded at Gateway, but I still can't believe they laid an egg on the opener.
I don't I don't really think the 5 team laid an egg. I think that they got unlucky and got damage on a restart. They
Yeah.
said there was damage from pushing Briscoe. That there was a I know for sure the splitter on the left front corner was pushed up, and we all know how important that damn thing is.
Yeah. I believe
So
they said it got separated from the body, right? Like there was actually an arrow
it
deficiency.
was actually so if it's supposed to be like this, it was lifted like that.
Okay.
So that's the air is supposed to go under it, and it's being stopped. So, not to mention there was holes in the front nose piece of the
Yeah.
car. So those two items, that car was junk. He was lucky to finish 19th with it.
Like I don't know if
Um,
he had a car strong enough to beat Briscoe's based on
no, but he was running third when it happened.
right. Well, that's what I was
So
gonna say is if he had just finished where he'd been running before that,
yeah,
he's already with today's performance, he's locked in to the fight to
yeah.
the next round already. And he can go to
So
Bristol and kind of do whatever.
the
Uh
the thing with Darlington last week is it wasn't your typical Darlington race. There
no.
you couldn't pass. You tires usually mean something. Usually you have to kind of chill on them for a little bit, try to make the long run work. But it didn't matter last week. It was track position meant everything, and it did not matter if
Yeah.
your car was amazing or not. The only car that I think made up ground after a screw up was Denny, and
Yeah.
he was having to pick off maybe 2 cars a run, and
Yeah.
then pit 2 cars a run pit. I mean he was the only one that actually seemed like he could do something, but everybody else, wherever you netted out after the restart, you were there until pit stop and then start over again. It was they need to do something for that for sure because you know Darlington the last few years has been one of the better races, and this
Yep.
was very lackluster in my opinion.
Yep. Um
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it was definitely not as good as a typical Darlington. Briscoe repeated back to back wins in the Southern 500 impressively.
and yet again, Eric Jones shows that
Yep,
track is his best.
yep. Um, it was impressive. So listening to Jimmy Johnson talk earlier, I think 2 weeks ago, listening to him do the podcast with Kevin Harvick, and then you see how the teams are performing. He's moved back from Europe now. He hired Matt Kenseth. Now he's in sole control with the investors. They've made a lot of personnel changes. So you see that ship start to steer the right direction. I'm excited for where the season will start for them next year, knowing, this will be the second year for Toyota's new body because this was the first year, right? They didn't run this last year.
No, this is the second year.
Is it the second year? Okay, so Toyota's definitely gotten their car tuned right, just like Ford has with the Mustang, um, and which we'll talk about the Chevy problem here shortly, but
Well, yeah, I was about to bring it up.
uh, because we don't know what they're going to do yet, and
So it is going to be a Chevrolet.
Well,
They're bringing a new body in. We just don't know what it is.
right. So we'll see. We'll see what they do there, but they're definitely falling to a
And
deficit where they had
we
a
know it's going to be Chevrolet because the 41 is switching to Chevrolet.
yep, yep, and partnering with HMS. That was announced,
If
which
they
I think
weren't
that'll
doing
be
Chevrolet,
better
that
for
would have
them,
been
but
big
I don't think
for
it's going
them.
to make a major difference because you still got Cole Custer piloting it and not, a higher tier driver. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. But
I found it interesting that not only are they switching to Chevy, all three drivers are going to be the same. So Sam Mayer's not going anywhere,
yep,
nor is
Sheldon Creed.
Sheldon Creed, which Mayer's won one race and Creed still hasn't won a race yet. And it's just like, what,
I
I don't
feel
know.
like we're
I
back
don't
to the
see it.
Haas of old, back when he first started, and he was partnered with them then too, with Hendrick in a lot of ways. That he's just back to hobby racing. He'll provide you a
He's
ride,
good.
and he's good, but you're never going to contend for wins on a periodic basis while you're running there. It's always going to be just a hobby racing thing for him. So
Yeah, he's definitely more concerned with Formula One than he
yeah,
is.
I just think of if you put all that focus back into your Cup slash Xfinity programs, where would you be right now? Would Tony still be here? Potentially, all kinds of stuff. So probably maybe
Tony
not. I don't know.
Tony won the regular season title of
But yep, that was
NHRA.
impressive. Uh,
Our buddy Chip's excited about that.
yep. But as far as Darlington goes, the 19 winning and dominating didn't really surprise me. They've won there with Carl Edwards. They've won there with Truex, and
Yep.
now they win there with like the 19 team as a whole understands that track. And
Chase
James Small
understanding
was
the
there.
track after last year.
Yep. Chase won at that track last year. So to me, it wasn't a surprise. Him going out there and winning, it was what I expected. I expected them to go out there and be strong. Now dominate, maybe not, but based on what that car is capable of and the past drivers in it that have won there, either in the 78 or the 19, and some of those team members are from the 78. That's what you should see. The one thing I did find interesting was in Chase's interviews this week following his victory last week at Darlington, he had mentioned that this was the first that when Martin was there, Martin was doing no sim, and Chase now spends 6 to 8 hours a week in the sim. Well, no wonder in Truex's
Yeah.
3 years they were constantly struggling, and he is a champion where he should have been contending more, and they should have been more on the money. Like it shows you how much they were having to lead strictly on Martin, and everybody was blaming James Small. Let's fast forward to where we are now after with Truex gone. Clearly, James Small was not the problem, and it wasn't just all Cole Pern. And they were saying, well, Small's not Pern. I'm one of them. I'm guilty of it, saying like, okay, maybe he's not the right crew chief. He might be a good, like,
It
how Ron
turned
Malley
out it's
was.
an MTJ problem.
Yep. It was definitely an MTJ problem. He wasn't committed, which then brought me to you and I to the discussion a little bit of more. I'm truly surprised Joe Gibbs being as dedicated to winning as he is, that he was willing to put up with 3 years of that crap, of not having a guy that was willing to put in the work to,
I think it all has to do with Bass Pro Shops, and that's
yep.
it.
You're probably right, because that's non-participation is not a culture that the two-time Super Bowl champion and multi-time NASCAR Cup champion is accepting of. So I
It,
was really
it
surprised.
it's a sidebar, but it's on the same precedent, really. Uh, I was explaining the Roval to my
Mhm.
girlfriend
Yep.
just 2 days ago, I think it was, and I showed her the last few laps of last year's race. It just happened to be where it was on YouTube, where I rewatched it last year, and so the race ends, and Larson's doing the victory lane thing, and Larson pointed out that he'd gotten in the sim for the first time in a few months, and that really helped him. It's like
Yep.
Come on. Simulator time obviously means something at this point. So why aren't we all doing it?
Yep, like I get that you think it's not helpful for you. Harvick said the same thing for a long time, but where we are now in the current design of these cars and what works best in order to give your engineers data points with how short practice is and everything, it's whether you want to pretend it's track time or not, it's time in the seat. It's learning how you respond to setup changes. It's not just about the car and the track, it's about how you handle the changes of the car and the track.
Yep.
So, just like I was surprised that Rick let Larson go as long as he did and not participate in the sim and say how it's not as good for him. I don't care if it's good for you at this point. My goal is to give the most information I can. And if you're going to waste a resource, the only resource, to me, that's you don't want it bad enough.
You can't test. That's your testing, so do it. And
Yep.
I think that all contracts from here on out, just
Yep.
Chase Briscoe as the baseline.
Yep.
All contracts should put in there must attend X amount of sim time week to week per during the season.
Yep. And
Must must attend, or you're in breach of contract.
yep. Just like you can breach a contract for not having a charter, it should be a breach of it's the same way the NFL finds you if you don't show up for practice and for opening, sessions and for
Yeah.
pregame stuff, or teams fine you. It should be the same there. So, yeah, I don't. What was it? Was it the oh, the other thing with Darlington? So the Xfinity guys. Uh, was it Darlington? No, it was
They
Gateway.
didn't they didn't
Oh
run
no, it was
Xfinity.
it wasn't it was Darlington, but it wasn't Xfinity. It was trucks. Chandler Smith,
No.
when he said that he was complaining. I don't know if you heard this, but they were talking about door bumper clear, and I found it ironic that he was saying that he didn't like the fact that the trucks, if you touch the wall, you cut down a tire. How are you supposed to learn how to keep it off the wall if you can't go up there and brush the wall and everything? Like it just made me laugh because
Oh my God.
let's rewind prior to the composite bodies.
The, he
Larson,
he
Reddick, all
he
these
was in
guys.
Xfinity last year,
Yep.
and he could touch the wall, and that's why he's complaining.
Yep, he's
He was
complaining
in a
because he
series
had a
where you
car that
can
didn't
touch the
cut
wall.
tires. Yeah, it just made me laugh when they were bringing
Yeah.
that up. That's not your, you want to hone your craft. I think is what he was saying. Like, how are you supposed to hone your craft? He's like, well, the craft, you're not supposed to be up there bouncing it off the wall. First off, you're supposed to be off the wall just a little bit.
Yeah.
But if you're constantly riding the wall, you can't really be
From
mad when you cut a tire or break a toe link or bend
from
something.
everything we're hearing, the trucks will have the composite body by
Yep.
27 or 8, something like that.
I
So
think they're pushing for 27, is what the last thing we heard. So, um, yeah, so that's Darlington and uh
Gateway.
the Gateway. So let's see. Um, we already did a little bit on the lawsuit, but um lead into well, no, did we?
No.
No, we didn't.
Well, not on what we learned last week.
Okay, so we didn't talk. I'm trying to remember because there's been so much information. So we didn't talk about the gold codes and replacing the teams and
No.
the F bombs. And okay, so let's recap. So this is the first trial or the first time they've gone to court, and now some things are unsealed. There's still stuff that's sealed, but now we've completed the discovery phase and we get text messages and everything else. So I have this.
Unredacted material.
Yep, the unredacted material I found was hilarious,
Yeah.
because everybody that's viewing it is viewing it as the people you can tell who's on NASCAR's side very clearly
Hmm.
because they're saying, "Oh, this is damaging for Michael Jordan and Curtis Polk and all them." When they're saying, "Oh," so if you're not into it and you haven't read up on it, MJ and Curtis Polk, his guy for 2311, had said, "Did Gibbs sign yet? Oh, when they sign those fuckers, or did the other teams back us? No, called them pussies, etc." And you can go read the unredacted text messages. I think that's not damaging at all because you're talking about a team owner's personal opinion, and it has nothing to do with NASCAR's case of antitrust that they're trying to go against those guys with. They were asking if they signed, they weren't saying like they violated any agreements that we had internally to take that offer or sign, anything like that. Now, it's not a good look for your owners to be talking about the sport leadership in that manner. But to me, that's not as damaging as what we learned about NASCAR. What we learned about NASCAR was after COVID and the invent of live golf, NASCAR purposefully decided, oh, we can't afford to have a competitive series come out against us. So let's take all these actions ahead of time to ensure that they can't. And what did they do? That, the definition of a monopoly is that you are the sole provider and sole source of everything. That's why Windows got broken up and all, Microsoft Office and the off Windows now has to work with any type of office software. Back in the day, as an IT person, that was interesting to me. You take that forward, you look at what the definition of monopoly is. Well, NASCAR bought the ARCA series. They created the next gen car. In their own words, they created the next gen car not because it was meant as a cost savings. That's an added benefit. They created the next gen car so that they could own sole propriety of the IP in the car. Now that teams don't own the car, we've talked about this before, you've got to spend $300,000 a car per team to run in the series that you don't own. You don't even own the
Yeah.
shit that's in it, but you got to spend 300 grand or more per car. Then, so we've got the car, we've got them buying up other competitive series. Then they go after thoughts of they discuss intents to possibly purchase SMI. They make track exclusivity agreements that say you cannot know if you want to host a NASCAR Cup race or a stock car race, you cannot host any other competing stock car series that we deem a competitor. Well, they're not worried about Dale Jr. and that group with the Cars Tour because they're all on the local short tracks. But if they ever considered going up to the bigger ones, NASCAR would squash them like a bug. So they went with that. They also did the same thing with Penske, which where I thought that was interesting, and I mentioned it to you, is that now drags Roger Penske into this lawsuit, whether he wants to be a part of it. It drags Marcus Smith into this lawsuit, whether he wants to be a part of it, because you signed these competition agreements that are a clear monopolistic way that said you will only do business with the Cup Series. So even if another series formed, where are you going to go race? You have nowhere. You can't even go race anywhere else if you want to, because between those two, NASCAR, ISC, there's really no independent tracks left other than some of the smaller, really local regional tracks. And even those are getting NASCAR subsidies from lower tiers for like what would be the K&N and the stuff. So go ahead. I've said a lot. Go ahead.
So this, what you're saying, kind of makes me think of another question. Maybe that's why Gateway's on the schedule now. Maybe that's why
Yep.
Coda is on the schedule. Maybe that's why Rockingham is on the Xfinity schedule. They're going out and grabbing these random tracks and putting them on their schedule
Mm-hmm.
just in case
Dover.
somebody tries.
Yep. Put them in there.
Well, Dover's on SMI, so
Well, right, but
so
they went and how long ago did they acquire Dover? Not that long ago. How long ago did they acquire
2021.
Pocono? Not that long ago. You know, they've been each side has been gathering up these tracks.
Nobody's acquired Pocono, have
I
they?
thought they bought Pocono out.
No.
No, they might be the only one left then.
Mighty Oli still own that. You might. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. We'll have to do some research on that one. But
So yeah, you had the track
Dover,
exclusivity.
Dover, and Nashville were both purchased by SMI after 2021.
Yeah,
So so like that's. But you got if you really look deep into it, that makes you wonder if that's why Gateway is on the schedule in the first place.
yeah,
Because Gateway's privately owned too.
yep. Um, so yeah, we have track exclusivity, car exclusivity, and then series exclusivity. How are you not a monopoly? Like that's everything right there. And then
I,
as a catch-all, we learned about something that hadn't been discussed. We've bantered about it before, you and I. Like, could NASCAR possibly field their own cars and their own teams? Because they own the IP, really, they could. They could put them together and just make a manufacturer list. But they had talked about hiring the drivers as 1099s either from the Xfinity series or the truck series or the drivers directly away from the teams and this gold codes and doing away with the teams altogether in the event the teams decided to collaborate together and boycott for Daytona next year and said, we're not going to race under this new charter agreement. So they took every possible step as a company, as a sporting league, to make monopolistic decisions. And their argument is we're not a monopoly. I don't know how you could possibly argue you're not.
I
To me,
think
that's it. That's the
everything they've
game.
shown is shown that they're going to lose this damn thing. I
And
don't think the teams are going to win either. In a way, I think that this
no,
judge is going to be he's going to make the series break Arca back off. They're going to make him sell Arca, and they're going to make them. They'll have to run random non,
yep.
tracks that aren't owned by SMI themselves. Like just
I so we'll get to it at the end because I want to say like where do you think we're going from here? I mean, we're definitely going to trial. But I think so there's a couple things. So earlier this week, I think it was, I pointed out the one of the head guys at Spire. Well, let's before I jump to there. So then there's also the texts of the France family. This is so the on the monopolistic side, I think NASCAR's already lost the case. Now the teams have dispositioned the judge to request a charter status so that and to prevent NASCAR from selling the charters. And NASCAR is saying, well, we've got a current buyer lined up for these charters. We want to move forward with them now. You and I have said before that would be a massive mistake because if they lose, and I'm gonna say
win or
right now
lose.
on the record, they're going to lose.
Yeah,
Just off what they own on their own admission said they did. They've already
yeah,
lost. We just have to go to trial. They can do all kinds of damaging things to the teams of like the bad things they've said, but NASCAR's own actions, they've lost. If you go look up the definition of monopoly and you look at their actions, doesn't matter what people have said to each other. That's bad, but
yeah,
it's not damning. What NASCAR did, and they followed their point by point paper, is a monopoly. They've lost. The lawsuits, it's over. So NASCAR needs to settle before we get to court or they're screwed in my mind. But
for sure.
the France family even openly discussed, so you've got Lisa, Jim wasn't in it and Ben wasn't in it, but you've got both Steves, and they're talking about the charter agreements, saying basically the version they gave the teams to sign was a worse version than that took out things they had previously agreed on that would have been better for the teams, and it was essentially a fuck the teams version of the contract and take it or leave it, and we're happy to go back to pre-charter era, which would be
Night,
awful for the
they
business.
go back to 1998 Southern
Hillbilly, yeah.
hillbilly. Who cares what the team wants?
So
Sport,
the
regional
reason
sport.
why I brought that up, and it's important to look at that, not just because it shows that the leaders of NASCAR as a company are perfectly fine with not being fair with the teams, which are who put on the show at the end of the day. But it now leads to what I was getting ready to say. Was it Dickerson? I think it was Dickerson.
Yes,
Wisfire,
sir.
yeah, mentioned that after reading these disclosures, things that came out in court, they're even more puzzled and somewhat angry because they don't know who they're dealing with. You've been presented one facade when you're dealing with NASCAR if you're a cooperating team. But if you don't cooperate, this is how they talk about you in the background. And it's how they talk about the teams, what they really think about the teams in the background. So both of which are very telling. And to me, it really makes me wonder if we're going to get 15 more plaintiffs because
I'm shocked we haven't got any more to the
because
state.
now if I'm Rick Hendrick and I'm seeing the way they're talking about the teams and what they're willing to do, and I've seen the actions they took to ensure that I can't go anywhere else to race with all this money I have invested and that I've reinvested and helped build the sport for 70 years. And I'm Joe Gibbs, or if I'm, and it totally makes sense why 2311 has a problem with this. I've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on these teams, these charters, and this new racing facility. Meanwhile, you have taken numerous anti-competitive measures against me while I'm investing in the sport. That doesn't sit right. And I can see why they're against it and why Jenkins is against it. Um, so yeah, I think I think NASCAR is in a very bad way because after all the injunction discussions, the next thing NASCAR did was they said, okay, we're not going to sell their six charters. If we issue new charters, it'll come from the remaining four, which also rubbed the other owners the wrong way because in the charter agreement they mentioned this week, the owners agreed those four were only if a new manufacturer came in. So those are for Dodge or for Honda or for whoever, but they're not for a business equity partner to come in here and run a Chevrolet or a Ford or a Toyota that's already here. They're supposed
It's
to have
like
to go buy.
NASCAR. It's like NASCAR is goading the other teams into getting into it so that
Yep.
they can make the gold code happen.
Yep. And at this point, it's I don't think NASCAR realizes. I think they're so intent on we are not going to let the teams win this lawsuit and admit we were wrong. They keep giving the teams ammunition. First, it was we're going to change the rules mid-season during this lawsuit and say that if you're unchartered, you'll still guarantee your and race is an open team, we'll still guarantee your entry. Well, that's not how the charter agreement is supposed to work. So they just changed the charter rules mid-season. That's a finding on that's
Yep.
all right. That's
And
a tick
guarantee
mark in the
none.
win column for the teams.
Yeah, no
Further,
way the teams agreed with that.
yep. Then you said you're going to issue a charter out of the pool of the four, but it's not for a new manufacturer because you're going to hold these six. They haven't finished that discussion yet, but they said if we issue a new one, it's going to come out of that pool. So now, and it has to have first right of refusal. Well, Brad Keselowski's team, RFK wants a charter. We know that Jimmy Johnson's team, Legacy, is looking for a charter. We know other teams are looking for charters. So if that's the case, now whoever it was that was looking to buy it independent of those doesn't have may not you may have to issue two or three. Again, all of those were intended for your fourth manufacturer. So that's yet another win for the teams in the lawsuit of saying we don't have a seat at the table, but we're investing hundreds of millions, if not billions, across all the teams into making this sport go, and we're not getting the full transparency we deserve.
Yep.
So I feel like there's been numerous tick marks in the team's win column and not very many in NASCAR side because in order to keep the 2311 and FRM folks from getting money, the other part that goes with that is if you add another charter outside of those 36, NASCAR has to put more money in the pot. The teams can't get less than they already get. You can't dilute the pool. You have to increase the pool, which takes away from NASCAR's profit, from SMI's profit. And they
Yep.
don't want to do that, which is why they were trying to sell existing charters, not new
Hmm.
ones. So
Trying to sell a charter that's in the middle of a court
proceeding that
precedent
you are,
it,
at one
is
point
the
you and I agreed like
stupidest
it wasn't
thing
looking good for them.
I could have ever heard. When I
Yep.
heard they were doing that, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
do
from day
you all
one,
have a
you
brain at all? I'm not the smartest person on the planet, but
yeah,
I immediately knew, wait a minute, if you lose, well, I'm sorry, when you lose, you're
yep.
going to have to fix.
You're gonna have to retroact the damages and issue them new charters,
Right.
which what there was a question on there of why is it such a big deal that you if you sold an existing charter and we just issued them six new ones, for example. Well, based on the last charter agreement and this charter agreement, payouts are based off of finishing position. So if you sell my six charters that are worth, let's say, collectively between the two teams, let's say 2311s. Well, he was the regular season champion. He was in the final four last year. Bubba was in the playoffs. Reddick's been in the playoffs. Like when I look at 2311's charters and I look at FRM's charters, again, McDowell qualified, won the Daytona 500, made it in the playoffs two of the last 3 years. Those charters, when they started, the new charter agreement started at a certain state for earnings. If I sell those and I give you a new one, the new one starts at the bottom. It has no ranking. You just sold one that had a, let's say, top five ranking in the purse payout versus the bottom. That amounts to millions, if not hundreds of millions of payouts and bonuses and manufacturer stuff to the year. So I can see why the teams were like, that's irreparable. You can't get that back. It's not like you can take a charter and just randomly seed it. That was earned, and you're
It's
stripping
like
that earning.
it's like when BJ McLeod went out and bought the '78 charter.
Yep.
I
And
mean, the amount of money he probably profited off of that.
a good bit.
Yeah.
And
And then he went out and sold it for 40 million.
yeah. So,
That's brilliant.
and I said this in our discussions of the lawsuit when it first happened, that these charters should work like a housing asset. They should have gone into escrow. And you continue, NASCAR should be setting aside all funds that are earned by those charters until the charters are truly invalid. If the teams lose the case, then you take those six charters, the two they have each acquired, the one they each acquired from Haas when it, Stewart Haas Racing when they shut down, and their two prior they had. And then you take that six pools of money and you distribute it against the other 30 teams as them non-charter. But if they win, you better have that money sitting there to pay them and be able to give them back their ranked charters that they rightfully earned.
Yep.
And to not put it in escrow would be a gross
Not only
mistake.
earned, but paid for.
Earned and paid for. And speaking of paying for things, like if I think the biggest thing I learned by looking at the text messages, and again, it's damaging from a, you know, business relationship standpoint, because NASCAR said we don't want to be in business with people who don't want to be in business with us. Michael Jordan flat out said, I've blown and lost more money than this in the casino. I think they grossly misunderestimated who they're doing business with or trying to take to court against with Michael Jordan. And I
It's
just forgot his
probably not
name.
a more known athlete in the world.
Yep. I think they seriously, yes, you're the France family. You've been around since the inception of the sport. And he's Michael Jordan, and he's more known around the planet than your entire sport.
Hmm.
So the only person in your sport that's as known as him is dead, and that's Dale Earnhardt Sr. The next one is Dale Sr., his son, or Junior, his son, and
Yep.
then probably Jeff Gordon.
Yep.
After that, the rest of these guys, 90% of the world doesn't know who the fuck they are.
Yep.
They're not making their shit in a Chinese sweatshop. They're making Air Jordans in a Chinese sweatshop. So all I'm saying is,
It
I
was
think
nice
NASCAR
seeing you
has
all on this
seriously
podcast.
misjudged who they're going to war against. And if they're expecting Michael Jordan to blink, they're wrong.
Yeah.
That he's not going to blink. First off, he was rich when he came into this, and he'll still be stupid rich when he leaves. Unlike other people who go broke in the process of dealing with NASCAR, look at Furniture Row, look at what were the guys that came?
LeBron.
Yeah, Aikman when they came in and did at the 96 car, or
Oh, the 13.
yeah, what's the Geico guys?
Well, I'm talking about the 13 back in '98, the Dan
Yep.
Marino
Yeah, the Dan
car.
Marino car, or I can't remember his name, but he partnered with DEI. Um, there's any number you can go through the history of investors in this sport where they came in rich and they left broke, or they had to leave before they went broke
Yeah.
and had to sell everything pennies on the dime.
That's
Ray
pretty much
Evernham,
what
prominent.
Barney Visser did.
So Barney Visser, in this case, they finally found somebody in Michael Jordan and uh, I can't think of his damn name. FRM. What's the owner's name?
How far I am.
Yeah, front row.
Oh, Bob Jenkins.
Jenkins. Yeah, Bob Jenkins.
Like I told you on the phone, when
Yeah.
you're thinking of front row, think of the guy who used to do the color
Yeah.
commentary for
So
ESPN. That's how you remember
I mean,
it.
the reason why all his cars are sponsored by all these restaurant chains is because he's a multi-billionaire from all these chains. He ain't gonna
Yeah.
go broke from it either.
Yeah.
His As fast as he's burning money in this lawsuit, his chains of restaurants all over the country are burning him money back into his pocket. So he's
There's
fine.
a reason. There's a reason that at Gateway that 38 had fish yeah on the back of
Yep. Like I mean, yeah, he doesn't want to lose a bunch of money, but at the end of the day, he'll be perfectly fine. He'll pack up
He'll
shit.
get
They've
it all
already
back
said,
in a week.
yep, he'll make it all back in a week, and he'll pack up shop or 6 months. They'd be right back to where they were, all the money they lost, and the sport will be worse for it. So now let's move forward to the discussion of. So we've laid out all this different evidence. I think it's very clear whether you're a Hamlin fan or not, a front row fan, a front row fan or not, and whether you think the teams are right or not. I think it's very clear NASCAR is going to lose, not just because of what was disclosed, but because of the actions they've already taken to guarantee the non-charter teams entry. That says that there's something wrong with this agreement in this system. To guarantee we won't sell their charters, because we also admit that there's something wrong with the charter contracts if we have to do that. To me, those are two ticks in the team's win box on top of the goal codes, the three big points we laid out about the that was disclosed with the track exclusivity, the car exclusivity, and everything. So now let's just talk about what do we think is going to happen. Clearly, we're going to trial, but I had told some of our buddies, they were like, I don't care. I just want to watch the racing this weekend or whatever when all this came out 2 weeks ago. And I had said, well, you better enjoy it because the NASCAR is gone. You can kiss it goodbye. Even if the teams lose, it's over. Because the next charter agreement, the teams are not going to cave the same way. They're learning from this for the next agreement, no matter what happens. They're learning where they truly stand in NASCAR's eyes. And that NASCAR sees them as expendable, that they do not see them as equals or contributors to the betterment of the sport. So what do you think?
I think that NASCAR will lose. I think that the judge will make the charters permanent, just like franchises, like they should already be. Um, NASCAR will have to sell off ARCA. Probably even have to sell off the sports car series because,
Yep.
I
IMSA.
mean, in a sense, they're monopolistic there as well.
Yeah, you made me
Um,
build a sports car that you're going to call a stock car, but again, I can't take it because I paid for it and run it anywhere else. Even though there's a perfectly good series over here that you own called IMSA and GT1, GT2, there's prototype and all this stuff. There's Le Mans, all these things. I can't take this car that essentially, and you built Garage 56, don't forget, and went over
yeah.
here. So,
What I do fear is, I mean, we both, as much as we harp on how crappy NASCAR has been this year, we both love it. That we've
yeah,
watched it our entire lives. What I fear is that they'll have to sell off, and the buyer that buys it isn't the right buyer and
yeah,
screws it up even farther than what it already is. In the perfect world, they would call Dale Jr. and Kevin Harvick and go, "Hey, help us
yeah,
make this what it needs to be," because they're the ones that are most outspoken. They know what to do. They know we need more horsepower.
yeah,
They would immediately go, "Well, this is happening. This is happening. This is happening."
yep.
And you know,
Well, you just look at the
also
group that bought
it
Cars Tour, and that's Justin Marks, Jeff Burton, um, Harvick,
Junior and
and
Harvick.
Junior. And if you gave racers control of a portion of the sport, prior racers, bring in a Tony Stewart, whatever, I think the health of the sport goes up
Yeah.
overall. I worry. I agree with you. I think they're gonna if they lose, when NASCAR loses, they're gonna lose. And they're gonna lose to the tune of probably a $1 to $2 billion in damages. Because you're talking about two teams with six cars. They said it takes $20 million a year to field a car. Well, you've cost each one of them $20 million each, so there's 60 million per team right there, minimum revenue this year because you're not paying them out because the charters are suspended. Then you have whatever their finishing position and bonuses are, and then you have the irreparable damage to sponsors that may have signed off if they lose their
Right.
drivers,
And you probably pay for their legal
all their
fees and
legal
things like that.
costs,
Yep.
any reputational damage to Michael Jordan, to Curtis Polk, to Bob Jenkins, to their people. Like, I do think if when they lose, it's going to be not some like small number. It's going to be in the billions. And I
Well,
think you're going to find that NASCAR, when we get to the trial and the true discovery begins, when they're forced to open their books and release the
that's what
names of
I've
all
been
these
waiting
people,
on.
that's going to be the best part of the whole thing. You're going to see
Well, the
just how
best
much
part we're
money.
going to find is how much money is NASCAR earning every year
Right. And
that they
where's
don't.
and who's it all going to?
Yeah,
And
whose pocket is that going into? And then the thing that the last thing I was going to say is I wonder if the judge that, like he said I can decide to do this, this, and this, and you can't do anything about it.
yep, I can force you to sell the
I
tracks.
think
I can force you
I
to
think the
destroy the
judge will
charters.
force them to have X amount of races on tracks that are not NASCAR, SMI
Yeah,
tracks at the moment to force them to go run
independently
in
owned
Idaho.
circuits. Yep.
Yeah, like
I I would be surprised. Let me. I'm gonna say I would be surprised. I will not be surprised if you find that a chunk of the money that comes into NASCAR is actually funding IMSA.
it is. There's no way
No,
it's
no,
not.
but like you'll see the line items that it funds the health of IMSA, and without it, it wouldn't exist
Oh yeah,
because
there's no way it doesn't
sports
because
car
IMSA.
racing does not generate the kind of money
No.
necessary to race legit $300,000 to $500,000 prototype, $1 million prototype cars, all the things they do GT1, GT2. And you look at their sponsors and their drivers and the lack of television and viewership and everything, other than the 24 hours of Le Mans, the Rolex, 24 hours of Daytona, all those things
It goes
Sebring.
back to that car that Steve Phelps wanted Spire to put in for one of their drivers from IMSA.
Uh-huh.
Steve Phelps owns an IMSA team
Yep.
that is owned by NASCAR.
It's owned
Like
by Jim
it's
France, which is
yeah,
NASCAR.
it's gonna be
So I think that's
uh,
going to be it shouldn't be a shock to everybody when the finances are uncovered that you see, let's just say probably 20% of NASCAR's incoming revenue that they don't disclose to the teams is
yeah,
directly funding
yep.
the sports car series over here and the health of it. So I think, and nobody in the NASCAR world has said this because I don't think they've really looked at it and linked it together, but I think there's going to be, depending on how the lawsuit goes, the ramifications of the lawsuit are not just going to change NASCAR forever. They're going to change IMSA, sports car racing forever.
All racing, honestly.
Yeah. Um, I do worry, as much as I enjoy this, and I'm enjoying watching NASCAR get their ass handed to them because it is getting handed to them. Now they're having to disclose it. It's no longer a conjecture about what they may or may not be doing and what money they may or may not be sending or spending or how they really feel about the teams. The book is now open. Like we've opened the secret book, the secret diary from Mean Girls that NASCAR writes about this evil bitch. I hope she dies. Like we're now in the Mean Girls book about what NASCAR thinks about all these team owners.
Yep.
And we're only going to get more of that once things are opened. And we get texts between teams from Rick Hendrick and Roger Penske to Curtis Polk and from Jeff Gordon. And like this has the potential to be very bad for them, but even worse for NASCAR still. And truthfully, the only people who can stop this train from running off the fucking rails and into the gorge is NASCAR. NASCAR, whether they want to do it or not, and they really don't want to have to admit that they need the teams, is going to have to swallow their pride and stop this. Because if
Yep.
we go all the way to
They need to
court,
look in the mirror and go, okay, they're right. We're fucked. We need to undo as much of this we can
yeah,
and start from scratch, or we're going to lose the series altogether.
yeah, because I worry, the one thing, so Parker Kligerman and Landon Castle talked about it, and they didn't get into it, but I do worry that NASCAR is going to end up in a kart IRL split scenario, which they never recover from. And
Well,
again,
something.
we talk a lot of shit about NASCAR openly, but I've also been a fan of it a long time, and I've given them credit this year where credit's due for doing certain things and making things better. Like we're going back to Homestead, we're going to do the race at the base. Um, I That's property and trademark by me since nobody said it yet. I'm going to go get a trademark for it, but I have it on digital here. If anybody tries to do it, you owe me 5 cents, and many, many more.
I gotta get some boots on. Hold on.
But the shit's
It's
getting deep. Yep.
getting
I'm
deep
just
in here.
saying we should go in on this together. Race the base.
All right,
In fact, I'm
all
not
right,
publishing this till I do trademark
all
the
right.
thing. But anyway, but either way, NASCAR. We grew up watching it, and I don't want to see it die. I really don't. But the France family is so stuck in the 70s and 80s mentality of my way or the highway. And all you have to do is look at every other major sporting franchise and no other major sporting franchise, the ones they want to very be and be like and emulate, does the league not have say in how the league is run? The teams own the league in the NFL. They appoint a commissioner, but the
I was
teams
about to
decide
say
what the
that.
hell's going to happen. The
I
NBA is the
think
same way. Go ahead.
the last thing I have on this, and I was about to say this, and you kind of you're skimming right over top of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
This judge will, if it goes to trial, if they let it go to trial and it comes down to a verdict, the judge will say the teams that are currently in, including these two right here, they all now have ownership with you.
Yep, they all have equal shares.
They all have, you know, 15 teams divided by, or 100% divided by, 15 teams, and then kind of add a little bit because NASCAR does
Yep.
need some
NASCAR gets a
money.
majority vote as the
Yeah.
founder, but you give them 20% and the remaining 80% gets broken up against the teams or something
Yep. Yep.
where, nope, I
That's
didn't
what
think
needs
about
to
that,
happen.
but I agree. 100%. You gave them charters, but you don't want to make them permanent. Well, you gave them charters because you agree that they've invested to help build you, and without them, you wouldn't have them. You
You
wouldn't
got
have
the
them
Wood
support
brothers been here for 75 years. You've got the Hendricks been here for 41. You've got Gibbs been here for
35 or
35 or
36.
something like 30 something.
Roush has
You've
been
got
here
all
for 60.
yeah,
Yep.
so you've got all these teams of all this history, and you don't even want to get them
And you
permanent
just
full
ran
share.
a almost a 20-year veteran out of the sport because you got your head so far up your ass and made Tony Stewart sell his
Yeah.
interests and leave.
So I think with all the stuff, if the judge is smart,
Yep.
he'll put that in there. Not only are you having to sell some of the shit off because you have a monopoly, your teams are now owners,
Equity partners.
equity partners.
Yep. I
Get
agree.
in bed with them because they're with you for the long haul.
Yep. They've invested to make you what you are, and without them, you wouldn't be here. So your Cup Series teams, I agree. They are now equal equity partners, all 36 of them.
Front Row has been a part of it since what 2008 ish.
And Furniture Row
So
was there, in the early 2000s as well,
I mean, almost every team except for Trackhouse, which is what Ganassi was Ganassi.
which was
I mean,
previously with Felix Sabates.
Cap
So I
Cody,
mean, like
so
again, the same thing. They've been around forever.
every team that's there, with the exception of Trackhouse, has been there for a very long time. It's time that they have ownership of the series that they've built.
Yep. Well, I would argue Trackhouse even though it's under a new label and everything, it kind of started fresh. It did start from Chip Ganassi's assets, which were paired from Felix Sabates' assets. So you're still talking about back in the 70s and 80s. They've been
Yeah,
there for 40, 50 years. You're talking about the only team that's truly new to the grid besides 2311 is Legacy Motorsports. Everybody else there has been there for the better part of 3 decades or more,
yeah,
some of which RCR, Wood
yeah.
Brothers,
I forgot to mention RCR.
Roush were there from the beginning.
RCR has been there since before Hendrick. So
Yep. So to see, I think that's the way to go. And it's clear that NASCAR with the gold codes, Jim France and Lisa France Kennedy, like their grandfather, Big Bill, operated when they first tried to unionize and said, we ain't having this shit. That they were very much still in that mentality and they haven't adapted to the world today.
the teams need to bring this up in court. Bring up what happened in the '70s when that tire issue was at Talladega,
Yep.
and show that. I mean, even something from back then is showing of what the series does.
Yep.
Oh, you don't like
Any
this? You're
dissension.
you're not going to race? Well, I'll bring these guys in. They'll race because
Yep. Yep. So I think what you're predicting, honestly, I hope that's what I hadn't thought about it that way, but I hope that's what happens. I hope that when the teams win, that's one of the resolutions they decide is if we're going to break up NASCAR, NASCAR can make a choice. You can either run the sport or you can own the tracks, but you can't do both.
yep,
You can't control the schedule and pay yourself on the back end through the funds that go to the tracks from this agreement and this agreement and all the track-based sponsors and the TV sponsors and the gambling and
not
everything
to
else that
mention
goes with it.
IMSA, the thing you brought up, IMSA.
and IMSA and all these things, and then you know they Landon and Parker had said it can't be about money, which did piss me off because these two guys are extremely smart and they sounded like a bunch of idiots for the first time when they're like, it can't just be about money. Well, Parker, you're in the television business, and Landon, you've been racing for a long time. You
It's
can't
about money.
seriously
It's
think
always
it's
about
all
money.
about money. That yes, it is it's there's very much a big portion of this, probably 40% of it is about money, but only 40%. There's more that has to do with control. I mean, again, when you read the things last year that were in the charter agreement when they were given to him to sign, well, what was part of it? What was we talked about it then? Control over your intellectual property. And who is suing you? One of the guys that is the most successful intellectual property controller and money monetization of intellectual property in the history of the planet. The only other guy that I know of as in my 43 years of being alive that generates the kind of money that Michael Jordan generates from his intellectual property is Dale Sr. And he's not with us anymore. And he still prints money because
Mhm.
of this fan base. So, and because
Yep.
of the way Teresa Earnhardt, like her or hate her, has protected that brand, and she helped him cultivate a way to protect his brand and Dale Jr.'s brand, from which Dale and Kelly learned.
Yep.
So it's not surprising to me that that's a key point. The decision making of I'd really love to hear, and I do hope the other teams in court or join them. You unilaterally decided to make these open teams still be guaranteed to qualify for the race. And that's only because there's not more cars right now. What would they have done had there been more cars? What happens when there are enough spots and there's not enough pit stalls and like we have to do eliminations, but you just guaranteed them a spot on the sheet? All that stuff. So I think I've hit everything on the lawsuit I wanted
The
to hit.
last thing I have,
Yeah, go ahead.
the second, no, it's the second last thing I have, and then definitely have to go. Is this trial guaranteed to end this fall? Like, is it guaranteed to
No.
be over? Like, when it goes to trial, I mean, you get what I'm asking? Like,
Yeah, so the way again, I only took a couple law classes for my cybersecurity degree, but and then I'm a lawyer because I watched State and Holiday Express and I watched
and I watch
ESPN2
suits,
and
I
all that
know
shit.
everything there is.
I've watched Matlock and all this other shit. But in reality, a trial is very. If you've ever watched any of these trial or crime dramas, you know the plaintiffs present, the defense gets to defend themselves, the plaintiffs get to redirect. There's some cross examination, and then there's ultimately a decision. That's going to take a while because there's a lot more information than what we're seeing now to present. There's going to be a ton of witnesses because, again, if we're getting into the discussion of the trial is starting in December, there's no guarantee it's going to end in December. I think it doesn't end until at least mid-February. And we're supposed to be starting a season, and we don't even know how the pay structure is going to work at that point. It could be all wiped away. You know, the judges made that very clear that the NASCAR, he's like, you're racing for payouts for charters, and you don't even know if there's going to be charters after I'm done with this, which tells me that the judge, even though he's being very clear to the NASCAR folks and the team folks, nobody should count their chickens before they hatch. I think he's also making it clear to NASCAR in a subtle way of like, you're kind of fucked. You
Yeah.
better you better really look
He's
into
begged
this.
them, you need to settle this.
You need to settle this because if we get into the courtroom and I have to make a decision, nobody's going to like what I have to do. Because
Yeah.
you can tell he's already thinking about that. Like, what
Yeah.
am I going to do? How do I handle this? And the teams, and once he makes a decision, the teams and the sport can't challenge it. The decision is the decision. So if he says we're breaking this up, all they, then that's it.
Yep.
So, um, so yeah, I think the trial once they start, if we get to December 1st, and I think the most honestly, I think we're not going to see any type of meet in the middle till after the season's over and they're out of the public eye. If NASCAR decides to cave and to stop this train from going off the tracks, obviously they're going to have to get the other teams to buy into it because any change to the charter agreements requires everybody to sign off on them. Any addendums?
Mhm.
Oh, that's something we forgot to talk about while we're talking about it. In the text messages from Michael Jordan and them, Curtis Polk alluded to, and this is the other thing I would really like to see what the other teams have to say about it, alluded to that JGR got a side deal in order to sign. I would like to know A, and we'll find out when we get to there because they're going to have to produce all documentation related to the charters if we get to trial. And that will include any one-offs and side deals. I'd like to know if anybody else got side deals. Did Hendrick get a side deal? Because it was Hendrick, 2311, JGR, like these were the, and RFK, these were the four reps that were basically leading the charge for change. And they all seemed to get quiet and sign except for 2311. So he alluded to JGR getting a special treatment, like an addendum, like here's your charter, plus here's your incentive program that's separate. Did Hendrick get one? Did Wood Brothers? Did anybody else? Did RFK? That's something
Yeah.
that I will find very interesting, if true. We don't know if that's true or not, but he alluded to it seemed like, and I don't know why Curtis Polk would say that if he didn't have some type of knowledge about it. And they work very closely with JGR, so I feel like it's more true than not. But um, so yeah, I think back to what I was saying before that popped into my head because I didn't have my notes in front of me. I think if they're going to settle, it's going to be after the championships celebration, everything's over, so that they can work it out without all the NASCAR press around and it not being in the headlines every week, dominating every discussion. Um, because it has like the Spire leader said, and the other teams, like it's now we're at a point where it's real now. Now that the gloves have come off and the Mean Girls book has been opened per se about what everybody really thinks about each other, that now we're at a point where it's there's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. But even if you win, you still lose because
Yep.
damage is being done no matter what. No matter who wins, the damage is still being done. You're seeing how the sausage is made, and nobody ever wants to see that really. As fans, we think it's interesting, but for the health of the sport, this is not good.
Yep. I agree.
They need to get their shit in gear and straighten it out in a way that's truly fair because if not, we've both been watching this sport since we were kids and I always thought that when we went EV racing with NASCAR that everybody says, oh, fans will still line up to race. I'm not going to watch EV cars. Nobody watches it now. I have no interest in it then. And I thought that would be the thing that kills NASCAR is if they forget their roots and get too far away from like the birth of the sport. This very well could be what kills NASCAR. You won't have to
Yep.
wait. Like this could be the end, like the IRL kart split. Like IndyCar is working its ass off to try and get back what it lost decades ago now.
Yep.
So with no with no promising end in sight,
Correct.
So that's my final thoughts. What you got anything left?
That's all I got. It's definitely all very interesting, and I'm eager for it. I'm eager to see what happens. I'm also eager for it to end because
Yeah.
it's kind of exhausting in a way, but
Yeah.
we'll
I
we'll definitely
and,
we'll definitely
and
have more coming out in the following months to see where
and
it's going to go.
one thing Parker and Landon said was, he's not saying that this is what he wants, but he's like, and maybe the best case is that the teams lose for the betterment of the sport so that the sport is still here. I don't see a scenario where everybody ends up better if Michael Jordan walks away from this sport and Denny Hamlin pulls his investment and Bob Jenkins pulls his investment because I don't see, you see all these teams and investment companies want to come in right now. I don't see that continuing if you just ran two prominent folks out who help you either are big names in the world or have been here for decades. Like I don't see that as being something that's encouraging to me. If I wanted to come in and buy a team, I'm I'm really rethinking my business investment if the teams lose.
Yeah, I didn't win the $1.7 billion the other night, but
Me either.
if I had, I would not have. I would have definitely not come in the sport until after it was better off, for sure.
And then I keep saying, we're done, but one last thing, you've got the Rick Ware thing happening with the lawsuit over the charters. Everybody wants to buy these charters, but I wouldn't be spending one dime on charter purchases right now because you could spend $40 million and end up with nothing.
Yeah, depending on what this judge does. I
You
mean,
literally could end up with a piece of paper that's not worth shit, but literally you can go wipe your ass with it because it's not worth
yeah,
anything.
yeah, it'd be a piece of paper. That's it.
And
You
that's
know,
that's the reality.
yeah,
The judge has made that clear too, and he said it. So
yeah.
now we'll go ahead and end. And
Very good.
enjoyed it. Go enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
see what Bristol delivers next week.
I'm
Um,
hopeful for Larson to get back on track. That's for damn sure.
I'm well after the domination he delivered last fall when we were
And
there
in the spring too.
and in the spring. If we're bringing back a tire anywhere similar, and they said they're bringing, still a softer tire. So I'm expecting, truthfully, well, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I'm expecting an ass whooping again. But I was expecting Byron to go into Darlington and smoke him, and he didn't. He wasn't even on the board. So it could easily be the other way around, where Denny Hamlin or Briscoe go in there and win the third of three for JGR or
Yeah,
Bell. Um, so all
yeah.
right. Well, appreciate it, buddy. And we'll see what comes out this week. Hope everybody enjoys it and have a great evening. Thanks for listening.
Hey guys.
See ya.